Think about the last academic advising session you engaged in and tell me specifically about that one.
Okay. Yesterday I was involved in new student orientation advising. So freshmen who are coming for the very first time on campus to enroll are going through orientation, and then they are advised and go to register for their first semester of classes. So the last one I advised yesterday was a young lady who wants to be a biology major, brought in some credits from advanced placement tests, as well as she had taken an English composition class through IU, and that was on her record. So we went through the courses that she should take her first semester, and put together a schedule of 5 classes. It was pretty easy. She was prepared. The freshmen are supposed to come prepared with a list of possible courses that they're interested in, and some questions. I had a new advising colleague observing our interactions so that she could learn more about advising styles before she sets out to advise students by herself later this week. Like I said, it was pretty straightforward. Like I said, helpful that the student knew what she was interested in. So we would look at the schedule of classes and pick out times that work together, kind of like putting together a puzzle. Classes that fit together time-wise and that met degree requirements that she still needed to fulfill. And yeah, so that was the very last student that I advised at 3:30 yesterday.
So you said with her you were setting schedule, and the schedule is pretty much based on what she brought to the advising session, means like a list of courses.
A list of courses that fulfilled various requirements that she knew she still needed to fulfill, which being a freshman are quite a few. For example, she needed a math course to fulfill the math modeling requirement, and there are pretty much only 2 courses that fulfill that, either finite math or calculus. So we looked for a finite math course that fulfilled that. We talked about foreign language because every student in the College of Arts and Sciences has to take foreign language. So I introduced her to all the options of foreign language, of which there are many on this campus, but she still decided that she wanted to take French, which is what she was familiar with from high school. And then we talked about an entry-level biology class for her to begin her major interest. We talked about another interest of hers, which was sociology, so we picked a class out for that. And then she needed an arts and humanities class to fulfill the 4 arts and humanities classes that all College of Arts and Sciences students have to take, no matter what their major is. So she had some listed, and so we talked about those and found one that fit with the other classes time-wise during the week. So we put together a list of 5 classes that fit together fairly easily. I had an appointment a couple of students before her where the student was completely unprepared, had nothing listed, and it took me a whole hour with her to piece together a schedule. That was unusually frustrating, but this student was pretty easy, and it was a good conversation.
Is she typical student or just super excellent?
She of the earlier the orientation in the summer is a 6-week program. And generally the students who come earlier, who've signed up for the earlier dates, tend to be more prepared, more on top of things. The students who
Proactive.
show up later in the summer, sometimes they're not so prepared. The class selection is not as good because classes are closing because people have been
I got it.
signing up for them. But for this time of the summer, yes, she was pretty typical.
Yeah, so those who are proactive, those who are prepared tend to come early, and yeah, that makes sense. And actually, for me to know more about academic advising system in the States, everybody has to visit you, or
That's a good question. And really, on this campus, it depends on the department. Since I'm the only advisor for a couple of departments, I don't require the students to come see me, though I invite them to make an appointment to come see me. And I would really like to see all of my majors once a semester, but that doesn't generally happen. There are students out there who feel like they have a good handle on things. Some do, some don't. And sometimes the ones who don't, I don't find out that they're having trouble until closer to their graduation time, when it might be a little late for me to help them as well as I could if they had seen me earlier. Other departments, like the sciences, like chemistry, they require them to see them every semester, and they have 2 or 3 advisors over there. But I guess my philosophy is these are grown-ups. They should take responsibility, and they are required to take responsibility for their own degree requirements. I am here to help them, and I let them know that often. But it's up to them to set that appointment up and come see me.
so the kind of you said department like biology, they tend to they require a student to visit you every semester. Is it just for freshmen or for all grades?
Some of them all the way through, particularly because a lot of the students aspire to medical school, so they really do have to, keep on track, taking the appropriate courses, getting the appropriate grades in proper sequence so that they can be ready to apply to medical school, take the MCAT exam for medical school and things like that. The majors that I advise for are not quite that structured. They have more leeway to take things at different times. I am here to let them know what would be the best thing to do, but like I said, it's not quite like trying to get ready to go to medical school.
So you said what you would tell them, what would be the best thing for them, and based on what, or what kind of advice you would give, for example, or
well, I try to let students know that they should, all students at IU Bloomington have to take math. Like I said, either finite or calculus, and I urge students strongly to get that done early in their college careers. I'm constantly harping on that. You still have math. It's not going to go away. It's not going to get any easier as you keep putting it off. Get it done. If you need to take a preparation course before you take that, you need to get that done. Even though it's not going to count for credit, you have to take that preparation course so that you don't fail the course that you need. So I'm always on that. The foreign language requirement, they have to reach 4th semester proficiency in a single foreign language. And so I try to direct them. I am an advocate for the classes that are lesser known on this campus. I mean, in high schools here in the United States, students can usually take Spanish, French, German, sometimes Latin or Japanese or even Chinese. But there are a lot of other foreign languages taught at IU Bloomington, which is a real strength for the university, that that students can take and find interesting and engaging. So whether it's one of the African languages or the Central Eurasian languages or even some of the Americas languages like Haitian Creole, I'm always letting students know about those options, and tell them that they need to get started. And most of those sequences start in the fall. They have fall spring sequences.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just start them anytime. Some of them have summer intensive classes. So I'm always urging students to get started on those and also discover something that they might not have even thought of. I always enjoy helping students to discover new things. And then after that, just making sure that they're taking the core courses for the major, or if they're interested in studying abroad, how
Mm-hmm.
they can fit that in, and still get all of their other requirements done. There are certain classes that only meet in the fall semester or the spring semester that are required for their majors, so I let them know that and how that works.
Cool. You said it's very fun to tell students about possibilities they even didn't discover before. You suggest the kind of possibility based on, hearing from students,
Yes, I'm constantly, making mental notes of classes or instructors that students, speak of very positively, so that I can suggest those to future students. For example, the Dutch program, which comes out of the Germanic Studies department. I had heard from colleagues that Dutch is one of the easiest languages for an English speaker to learn, because structurally, the sound wise, it sounds a lot like English, and it's pretty simple for an English speaker to learn. And then I've also heard that the instructors are very good, very compassionate. So I've directed several students towards that department, and the students come back and thank me and say, "Yeah, you're right. That was really great." The African languages, the same. The Hungarian teacher here is a friend of mine. I've directed students towards her classes, and part what I've heard, and part that I really know people. So that's how I've directed some of the students. I know that like the Spanish program here and the French program here are very good, but they're very rigorous, and some
Mm-hmm.
students just are not ready to, or it wouldn't be fun for them at all to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them start it and go and jump back out. So then I give them a different way of fulfilling the same requirement in what might be a much more pleasant and relaxed atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
My son, for example, my oldest, had taken Spanish in high school, not taught very well, and was changing his major, so he was coming into the College of Arts and Sciences and had to do foreign language. So I suggested an African language because I knew it was a small class, and I thought it would be more interesting for him. And he ended up getting an African languages minor because he thought it was fun and interesting, and it kept him wanting to go keep taking the foreign language through the 5th semester. So those kind of things I enjoy doing.
Interesting. I kind of assumed that you would give advice based on students, you know, future career. I mean, like a plan for career or things like that. But you also consider the atmosphere of class or instructor.
Well, as far as careers are concerned, what I always tell students about foreign language, for example, is that whatever you're going to be doing, you'll probably be working with people. And one thing you learn in foreign language, or you should be learning in a foreign language class, is about people and cultures. So in my mind, it really doesn't matter what people and culture that is. You're still learning, about people in a different area of the world. Sometimes I'll direct a student towards a foreign language if it's if it is based on where they want to end up. Sometimes students are interested in a foreign language because their grandma spoke it, but they weren't ever able to communicate with grandma in Polish or whatever. And so they're like, oh, they offer Polish here. I've always wanted to learn that because so I can talk to my uncles or whatever. So I always think that's a great reason to pick up a foreign language because they have a personal stake in it. But as far as career, students have no idea really where they're going to end up in a career. So to me, it seems presumptuous to say, oh, you should do this. I ran into a situation. I advised for the criminal justice department, and I kept hearing this rumor through students that they had been advised to take Spanish because someone said, oh, all criminal justice students have to take Spanish, which I thought was insulting and and had disturbing connotations and was not true. And so I let my my colleague in university division. That's where most students start in university division before they finish their requirements to be able to go out to the different schools and majors. So I told my colleague, who's the liaison in university division for criminal justice, I told her, will you please tell your colleagues that it is not true that criminal justice students have to take Spanish. That is not good. No, don't have them even think that. So, yeah, students don't know. They have no idea what might end up being useful.
Exactly. Interesting. Actually, I'm wondering, you were advising the kind of mathematics or language requirement or the kind of requirement for everybody, or you also give advice specific major, like a higher level courses? Or
Right. I advise for the majors in 3 departments: criminal justice, folklore and ethnomusicology, and linguistics. So when students go from university division to the College of Arts and Sciences with one of those majors, then I am their advisor for their major courses. So they come to me to get advice about electives in the major, the upper level electives, what would be good, and who teaches them, and are they ready for 400 level, and things like that, and how they can. Oftentimes they have more than one major, so I help them to figure out how they can, along with their other major advisor, how they can take things in order so that they can get everything done and still be able to graduate in 4 years, and study abroad, how they can take courses abroad and fulfill major requirements. That's a constant conversation, because I have usually at least one student in each major abroad at any one time, usually more than that, 1 to 10 students who are studying abroad at any one time. And so we usually have that conversation before they leave. The Overseas Study Office requires them to meet with their major advisor to make sure that the courses they're taking will fit in to their major.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that they're not just taking, you know, stuff that won't count or won't be helpful towards them completing their degrees. So, yeah. So I'm constantly talking to, you know, majors who are getting up towards graduation as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you change your ways of advising to freshmen or you know, newcomers, you know, lower grade students versus, you know, like a senior or, you know, those who maybe junior, or for those who are going to finish degree soon?
I think my manner is maybe, you know, pretty similar. Some of my students that I've been advising for a couple of years, I've gotten to know fairly well. So I'm, you know, maybe a bit more casual with them than with a newer student.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have gone on to, you know, become people I would consider friends, and I keep in touch with them after they graduate.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have helped a few of my alumni get into graduate school, whether with a letter of recommendation or they've sent me their statement of purpose and asked me to edit it. I've done that several times. And then they'll get back to me and say, oh, I got into graduate school at, I have one who will be heading to University of Oregon this fall.
Cool.
And yeah, so for me, I characterize advising as being a super mom with answers. So I feel like you know, some of these young people are kind of like my kids. Sometimes I have to, you know, I'm polite, but sometimes I have to be frank with them about, you know, this plan is not going to work, or you know, sorry you didn't do well in this class, you're going to have to retake it for your major, or, you know, any number of you know, scenarios that happen, particularly with students who are having trouble getting requirements completed. Like I said, I have to have some frank conversations, and I feel it's my duty to them to give them honest answers. You know, trying to soften the blow